Losing a child is something that most people could never imagine. And because it is just so unthinkable, there are so many parts of it that no one really talks about. And it's not because they don't care, but because the truth makes people uncomfortable. It doesn't fit neatly into words, and it certainly doesn't follow the rules that we expect grief to follow. So today I want to talk to you about 9 things no one tells you about losing a child. And this isn't to shock or frighten anyone, but just to bring some understanding. If you are a bereaved parent, I am really sorry for your loss. And my hope is that you feel less alone through me bringing my experience. And if you are supporting someone who has lost a child, my hope is that this helps you understand what might not be spoken out loud. This video is part of my playlist, The 9 Quiet Truths of Grief. Each video speaks about grief in small, honest pieces. You don't need to watch them all, and you don't need to stay if this feels like too much today. Subscribe and come back to it later. Or take what feels supportive and leave the rest. 1. You don't just grieve your child, you grieve a whole future you imagined. People often talk about missing the person who died, but what doesn't really get talked about enough is the loss of the future, the milestones, not just those in the first year. There's the ordinary moments, watching them grow older, the versions of life that will never unfold in the way that you imagined. Perhaps you envisaged grandchildren or being mother or father of the bride, the future relationship you were going to share with your child. Have you noticed how grief can just show up when you least expect it? And that isn't because of the past, but because of what won't happen in the future. And this kind of grief is ongoing. It resurfaces as time moves forward, not backward. 2. Your body may grieve just as much as your heart. Many parents are unprepared for just how physical this loss can be. There's the exhaustion that just doesn't lift, even after a day in bed. There's aches and pains that just can't be explained, and a body that feels heavy or unfamiliar or fragile. And this isn't because you're not coping well enough. It's because losing a child is a shock to the whole system. Your body carries memory, attachment, and love. And when that bond is ruptured, the body responds. The body holds the score. 3. People expect you to be strong, even when you're breaking. So you might hear things said, "You're so strong," or "I don't know how you do it," or perhaps "I wouldn't have survived if it was my child." And while those words are often meant kindly, they can feel really heavy and you're expected to perform, even on those days when surviving is taking everything you have. You are allowed to be exhausted. You're allowed to not want to get out of bed. You're allowed to be angry. And you're allowed to fall apart. You don't owe anyone resilience. 4. The smallest things can hurt more than some of the big ones. So it's not just on anniversaries or birthdays. Sometimes it's walking down the cereal aisle, maybe a song in the shop comes on. For me, it could be advent calendars or seeing Toblerones. You know, it's a random moment where the world just carries on as though nothing has happened. How can there be a Toblerone in the store when my daughter's not here to buy them? No, it's just these moments slip right past logic and they land straight in the body. If this happens to you, please know that you're not overreacting. Love lives in the small details and not just the big moments. 5. Guilt often shows up, even when it doesn't belong to you. And this is one of the hardest truths. Guilt has a way of inserting itself into your grief. The what ifs, the shoulda, woulda, couldas, the replaying, the questioning of every decision that you ever made in your entire life. Honestly, I go right back to my own childhood, wondering where I started going wrong This doesn't mean that you failed. It means your mind is searching for meaning in something that was not yours to control. Guilt or feeling guilty is not proof of responsibility. It can be a byproduct of the love that you have and the shock that you're feeling. 6, support often fades long before your grief does. In the early days, there may be visitors, messages, cards, practical help, and then slowly life moves on for other people. Your grief doesn't, but the support can. And this can feel like a secondary loss again and again and again. And it's not because people don't care, but maybe because ongoing grief makes many people feel uncomfortable. They have experiences or life changes which take them in different directions, and you are left with your grief alone and sometimes feeling very isolated. And if you felt abandoned or forgotten, that pain is real and it matters. And I wish this didn't happen. 7, you may feel pressure to grieve correctly. Some people will cry openly. Some people will cry at a drop of a hat, while others go quiet. Some people talk constantly. Others just can't find words at all. Some people want to be around people so they feel safe, while others have to isolate to process alone. There's no right way to grieve a child. And if you've ever felt judged for how you're grieving or for how long, please know, grief is not a performance. It doesn't need to look acceptable for other people for it to be valid. Grieve your way. 8, your identity might feel fractured. Before your loss, you were a parent in a world that made sense. It might not have been perfect, but it made sense. But after your loss, you may ask yourself, who even am I now? Am I still a mother? Where do I belong? Even when you have other children, you may feel like you're not parenting the way you used to and you're not the mother that you were. And these questions are deeply upsetting, but very normal. Your identity has been shaped by the love that you shared with your child. And that love didn't disappear, but the shape of it has. And it may take time to understand who you are becoming now. I didn't even know what I liked anymore. I was holding on to everything that my daughter liked. And one day I suddenly realised that I couldn't make choices for myself because I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't know who I was without my daughter. And I'm still learning that now, still figuring it out. 9, love doesn't end, it just changes shape. And this is something no one prepares you for, because that love doesn't go away and neither does your grief. It doesn't fade with time. It changes how it shows up in memory, in rituals, and in your quiet moments, and in how you manage living with this loss. Continuing bonds are real, and holding love for your child is not something that you need to let go of to keep living. You can do both. I will never let go of loving my daughter, and so I will always be grieving. Before I finish, I just want to share something with you. So many parents that I've spoken to have said that they struggle to find words for what they're actually feeling, and sometimes reading someone else's words can really help and help you feel less isolated and more understood without even having to explain. One book that helped me feel less alone in early grief is How to Carry What Can't Be Fixed by Megan Devine. It doesn't rush healing or offer steps. It's a dip in, dip out book, which you can fill things in or you can just work through reading bits on the days that you feel like it. I've linked it in my Amazon storefront along with other grief support resources. There's no pressure to buy or to read anything right now. But sometimes just knowing something exists can be enough. If you want to take a look at the resources, they'll be in my description. If you are a parent who has lost a child, please hear this from me as a fellow grieving mother who understands. You're not failing because you are finding this so hard. You're not weak because it still hurts so bad. And you're not doing grief wrong because someone said that you should do it differently. You are living with something that changed everything. If this conversation resonated with you, there are other videos like this in the 9 Quiet Truths of Grief playlist. You don't need to watch them all. Just know they're there if and when you need them. Thank you so much for sitting with me, and please take a few breaths before you move on. Sometimes it can take a while just to process. Thank you, and I am really sorry for your loss if you are grieving. Thank you. Please, if there is anything that you have found that has helped you through your grief journey, please put a link in the comments. Thank you.